Well, we are live. Good evening, everyone, or good early morning from wherever you are tuning in from. So, my name is Angeline Constantinou. I am the founder, coach, and podcaster of Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. So, welcome to my podcast and welcome to the live broadcast. And you can find my podcast, Let's Break the Silence with Angeline, on Anchor FM, Spotify, Google, Apple, and all of the live and most of the live streams. And also, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Angeline Mitchell. So, my podcast focuses on breaking the silence and bringing real life stories of domestic abuse survivors who are thriving after domestic violence or some sort of abuse. But tonight is going to be lit, and I cannot wait to to bring Naz Meknat on. So what I want to do is I'm just going to cut right to the chase. I'm going to do a brief intro. So Naz, she learned how she experienced life as a woman in Tehran who was held hostage by the police and escaped to the U.S. to build a better life for herself. Naz is a women's right advocate and is sharing her story of what life in Iran it really is like in order to bring more awareness to what Persian women are going through. She would love the opportunity to share her story with you and my audience tonight, since this is a firsthand experience unlike any other. And also, Naz wrote a book, and she's going to be talking about that book tonight. And I'm really super excited to bring her on. So, without further ado,
hi everyone. Hi.
hello, Naz. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing good, doing good. You look beautiful. So,
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, I know that you wrote the book 7,000 Miles to Freedom, but right now, before we get started, if you are watching this live right now, please hashtag live in the comments below and let us know where you are tuning in from. And if you are catching the replay viewers, please hashtag replay in the comments. So we would love your feedback. Any questions that you have for Naz, please obviously, share this live out. Please ask questions in the comments. We would love to hear that. So Naz, what is
Yes.
the time right now in California?
What is going on in California?
Yeah, or like what is going on and what the time is.
Well, it is 4:35 in the afternoon,
Okay.
and the usual is going on. These days, it's been a little different. In all areas of the city, especially during the weekends, you see a lot of protests going on by Iranians. And as a lot of people know, Los Angeles has a very big population of Iranians living here. So, California, I mean, especially Los Angeles for us I should say all around the world, it's a little different these days for us.
Right. No, I can just imagine.
Yeah.
And I could just imagine what you went through. What was life like in Tehran? I mean, people want to know, like on my broadcast and on my podcast, who is Naz? I mean, who was she and how did you escape the police brutality in
You
Iran?
know, I was just an ordinary girl living, my life after the revolution. I was very, very young when the Islamic Republic took over. So I was only 4 years old. I don't remember how life was before the takeover of the Islamic Republic. I remember bits and pieces of when the revolution was happening. I remember bloody handprints on the walls. I remember the sound of bullets and the chanting of people on the street, um, helicopters going around, nonstop. I remember a little bit, but I don't remember life before Islamic Republic. I grew up in Iran. I stayed there till I was 23 years old, and I was forced to pack a small bag and leave my country overnight without being able to say goodbye to my loved ones. Um, and it all goes back to the strict Islamic laws that are in place in Iran right now, and which happened after the revolution. I come from a middle class family, and I'm the youngest of four. Um, I've always been a little rebellious, as a kid. So, life is not as easy living in Iran if you are not complying with the strict laws of the government.
Right.
So you can imagine how many times, I got in trouble with the morality police and with the principals at school,
Wow.
with the government authorities in general.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Because I know you talk about this in your book,
Yes, a little bit.
a little bit in your book. So when you arrived in the US, what happened? I mean, did you move to California right away? When
Not
you
right away. So because I had to leave overnight, the closest place that I could go to not to be in Iran, and it was the easiest place to get to, was Istanbul in Turkey. Iran, as we know, after the revolution, does not have any diplomatic relationship with the United States, so we don't have an embassy. My whole family lived in United States. I was the only one, back home. And when my parents came back to help me, with the situation I was in, which, I talk about a lot in my book. I was in a very abusive relationship.
Mm,
And
right.
it all ties together just because, when you are a woman in a Western country, in a free country, you have so many resources. So if you're going through a domestic violence situation, you can get protection. There are so many nonprofits, there are so many organizations, there is law that will protect you. In Iran, that doesn't exist. A woman has no rights. So you are a property of your father before you get married and your husband after you get married. And unfortunately, I didn't have that protection from the government. So if I went to the police, they would handcuff me and send me back to my abuser. Um, so that's why, it all ties together, where women have no rights in Iran after the revolution. All, basic rights have been stripped away, and that's why I had to escape, and I had to flee the country overnight. Um, the and another reason is you have to have permission, a written notarized permission from your uh, whoever the male is in charge, whether it's your father, your husband, your brother, to leave the country. If you're a woman, you cannot leave the country without their permission. So I had maybe a week left before the permission expired. So since we were not getting anywhere with my abuser, my and if the police got involved, I would be jailed or I would be sent back to my abuser. We
Oh,
decided that I have to leave the country overnight.
yeah, and obviously you had to make a plan to leave your country overnight.
I mean, the plan was very quick because
Yeah.
when we figured out that if the police uh, if they find me and if they get their hands on me, it would not be a happy ending. We knew it was very time sensitive, so I had to leave right away. So it was literally maybe um, I don't know, we decided like in the morning, and the next night I was gone.
Yeah, so that was quick.
Very quick.
And thank
Yes.
God you escaped quickly. I just want to say, hi, Nav, my brother from another mother, tuning in from Dubai. God bless you, bro. See?
No,
Told you it's late.
that's
It's early
amazing.
morning over there. I don't even know what time it is there. But yeah, NAF is a staunch supporter of my cause.
Oh,
You know,
amazing.
yeah, very
Yeah,
staunch
we need
supporter.
all the support we can get.
That's right, for women and for men, especially, in Iran. I
Yes.
know that you've been following the events there, and I know that you've been, very active in LA. So, what does that look like? Like what is going on in LA as far as the movement is, to protect women?
To be honest with you, I have never seen the Iranian community. So I won't say Persian. I know it's a habit that we say Persian, but Iran has so many different ethnicities, and Persian is just one of them. We identify when I moved to United States, I noticed that everybody says Persian instead of Iranian, just because there was some sort of stigma, attached to saying Iranian, the hostage situation back in 79, and, the terrorist attack on Twin Towers in New York, which had not, I mean, the
Yeah.
government is a supporter of ISIS and, all these terrorist groups, but it has nothing to do with the people. However, it was just very hard to say Iran because, as I said, the name just had so much weight to it. So everybody started saying Persian instead of Iranian. And recently, we are so united as Iranians because it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, whether you are Kurd, whether you're Turk, whether you are Persian, whether you are whatever you are, we are all under umbrella of Iran. We are Iranian. So what I've been seeing is not just in Los Angeles, not just in the United States, all over the world. We have protests going on. We are marching every single weekend and sometimes, weekdays for people in Iran. That is the least we can do, as Iranians outside of Iran. That's all we can do. What they're asking us to do is just be their voice. The government has disconnected the internet, and Iranians are very resilient, especially this new generation, which is Generation Z, the young people. They
That's
find a way
great.
around it. Yeah, but I mean, they are the ones who started this revolution. However, they have limited access to internet. So what they do is they send us the clips and the videos of what's happening inside of Iran, and all they're asking us Iranians outside of Iran is to be their voice, to post about it, to share this with everybody, Iranians and non Iranians, and not let this die just like another form of news that today it's news and tomorrow everybody forgets about it, because they're in on the streets every single day. These kids as young as 9 are,
Wow.
yes, very, very young. They are protesting. They're standing up to the government, to the Islamic regime. And, unfortunately, a lot of us have guilt. A lot of us that are outside of Iran feel guilty for not being there, for not sharing this moment with them, for, you know, going on the streets and march with them and protest and walk with them shoulder to shoulder. So there's a lot of guilt there that you're here safe and sound. um, so all we can do is really just spread the word, spread the message, and educate non-Iranians, and just ask them to please be our voice and reach out to the politicians, to the leaders, reach out to United Nations, to UNICEF. These are children that they are killing. There are children as young as 8 years old that they are dying.
Wow.
So that's all we can do, to just march, protest, show our solidarity with people of Iran,
Exactly.
and be their voice.
Exactly. Be their voice. And NAF is saying crazy oppression out there.
Yeah, crazy doesn't even like begin to
Right.
describe. What we are talking here is, when we heard this term a lot, basic human rights,
Right.
and basic means different to the Western world than to us. When we Iranians talk about basic human rights, we are talking about, it is so basic that it's ridiculous. When you wake up in the morning and you're, getting ready to go to work or going out to get lunch or whatever, your day looks like, deciding what to wear. We don't have that freedom to decide what we are going to wear, because the Islamic Republic is telling us what to wear, is
Right.
telling us what books to read, is telling us, every single move is monitored by this government that is a dictatorship. So every move you make is monitored, and you are told how to be. As a woman, they want to erase us. They want us to be kind of like unseen. They don't. That's why they want you to be covered from head to toe. You can't laugh in the public. You can't, hold any high rank in the government. You can't be a judge.
Right.
It's really a segregation in Iran that is so ridiculous. We are, as women, we are sitting in the back of the bus. Men are in the front and women are in the back.
See that?
In schools, yeah, it's like when you say crazy, it is crazy.
Crazy, right?
Schools are segregated, boys and girls. Women cannot go to any sporting events. It's closed to women. You can't. So that's what they are fighting for. We want to let everybody know that women of Iran, people of Iran, want freedom of choice. It is not about the hijab. It is not about Islam. It is not about a religion. It is only about freedom of choice, to live as a human, to be respected as a human being. If you want to wear the hijab, good for you, do that. If you don't want to wear the hijab, you should have the option not to wear the hijab. They're not asking to, go on the streets with a bikini. They're just asking for really such basic rights that, we are not allowed to have those rights as women. And it's amazing to see how Iranian men have got our backs. They are on the streets protesting with the women, even though this revolution was started by women, very, very young women, 16, 17-year-olds. I see a lot of men are supporting us. They're supporting the women of Iran, and they are risking their lives as well as the women, going on the street and participating in these protests, getting shot at, getting kidnapped, getting imprisoned. Every day there is a news of somebody else disappearing. Every single day. A young artist, journalist. It's bad. The situation is really bad, and we are just trying to inform and educate people. We definitely need, Iranians are very united right now. We are all working towards the same goal, and that's the
Right.
change. It is not the reform of this government, it's for them to leave. They don't want this government. It's a theocracy. It's ruled by, not even, I can't even say it's the Islamic rules, because they've made their own rules in the name of Islam. I don't practice any religion, but I grew up Muslim. So, and it was mandatory in schools to study Quran. And there's nowhere in Quran that you can see it says this is the way women should be treated, and the laws that they actually force on people. You can't find it anywhere. These are the things that they are making up to oppress people and to control people. So this young generation is very, very different than my generation. Yes, I grew up there. Yes, my generation fought the way we knew how. Back then, we didn't have any social media. Back then, we didn't have access to internet. So I'm talking about the 90s.
Right.
And the way we would fight was, not following the rules as strict as they wanted us to do it. We were underground and doing things that a teenager or a young person normally does all around. What it was all underground. We would show some of our hair from under our hijab. I was 13 years old when I got arrested by the morality police, just for saying hi to a neighborhood boy who was from the same age. We were both 13 years old, and crossing path on the sidewalk and stopped to say hi. And I just felt, this cold barrel of a gun in the back of my head, and turned around to find out it was a morality police, the same group of policing that killed Masa Amini. And I was handcuffed, thrown in a van, and taken to jail. So as a 13-year-old, you can imagine what's that like. So
Oh
from
my God. I cannot.
that moment on, it's really bad, and it's gotten worse. So from that moment on, as a 13-year-old, I just decided, my rebellious nature, I'm not going to comply with whatever they say. I'm going to fight in my own way, however I can. And, I was in a lot of trouble all the time. And as my mom says, if I didn't leave when I left the country, I would have been dead by now. I would have been, because they have no mercy. They have
Oh,
absolutely no mercy.
and this is why, when I, like we live in the US, we have, freedoms. And I feel so grateful every single morning for waking up and, you know, living in the US. I cannot imagine what it's like in Iran. Crazy oppression is right. But we are, I am so grateful for the freedoms that we have. And I think some Americans lose sight of that. Okay. We
Yes,
are free
100%.
in comparison to other countries. And I'm very passionate about this. And I just want to say hi to Dawn from Ohio. Hi, Dawn. Thanks for being here. Thank you. It's my good friend Dawn from Ohio. She's a
Hi,
great lady.
Don.
Yeah, great lady. Great lady. So yeah, it's just another staunch supporter, of my cause to break the silence on abuse, especially in Iran, because I don't have a TV in my apartment, but I do see events, and I know I see your posts on Instagram and TikTok. I mean, you're creating a movement and you are supporting, women's rights. And I'm glad that the young men are stepping up.
Yeah,
For
speaking of freedom, I, started with, after I wrote my book, I started with, advocating for domestic violence survivors and victims. Just because from where I come from, as I said, we have nobody to protect us. So for me, seeing all these women going through it, not leaving these situations and thinking they have no way out, it was breaking my heart. And I'm like, you have a lot of, a lot of outlets here. You have, a lot of people, organizations, companies, nonprofits, you name it, that the minute you say, I need help, they're going to help you. You will be protected. And so I started with really with that, just wanting to tell people, if I could make it, coming from where I come from, where women are second class citizens and they have no rights. If I could do it, I'm sure you can do way better here, getting out of these abusive situations. It started with that. And then when the, anti-abortion bill passed, that became my new passion, to advocate for women. And I always say, I've never had an abortion. I won't need an abortion. I just feel like women need to be respected to make their own choice. And as someone who comes from a country who I have no choice and every decision is made for me, from what I wear to what I say to, how I look, to what book I read, to what music I listen to, all these decisions are made for you. So when you live in a country like America that's free, you need to take advantage of this freedom, and you need to protect that freedom, because trust me, it could be taken away from you even here.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
so that's something that I've been like really passionate about. And obviously when the movement started happening in my own country, my attention has shifted a little bit towards just talking about women in my country, because right now they're the ones who need us advocating for them.
Right. You're 100% right. We need to advocate for these women. And if there's anything that I can do, to offer support, I would be more than happy to. And hopefully the viewers here who are tuning in tonight or are catching the replay during the night, because as we know, social media is 24/7. So
Yes,
it's like,
actually,
You know
You
what I
mentioned
mean?
something about, you don't have TV in your apartment. Um, Mainstream media doesn't cover what's happening in Iran at
Okay.
all. You might see a little clip of like 20 seconds of something on CNN, and that's pretty much it. News is not covering it whatsoever. We are getting all our news, through social media.
Sure.
And it's been very helpful. So all we are asking really from non-Iranians is their support to, we are trying to answer all the questions and educate people, but all we are asking is repost what we're posting, talk about it, ask the questions, and uh, just be our voice, because this is not just this is not just something that's happening in Iran. We've been talking about the Islamic Republic and how toxic and poisonous this regime is for years. Obviously, they're the worst enemy of the United States. So together we are trying to get rid of this regime, and it will definitely bring a lot more stability to the region. It is not just for Iran. I promise you, once this regime, this tyranny is gone, the whole
Sure.
region is going to be a little more stable, because they are the ones who are funding the terrorist groups. If they're not sending their troops to do you know uh, to act on terrorism. I know they're funding them. They're sending them weapons. And once we get rid of this regime, that whole region is going to be a lot more stable. So this is
Believe it.
going to affect the whole world, really. If we've just heard that they are helping Russia with weapons and whatever they need in the war against Ukraine. So they have their hands in anything uh, horrendous that's happening in the world.
Right.
So it will be really best for everybody in the world if this regime is gone. So that's where we can use your help.
Right. Okay. And yes, this regime needs to go big time. Big time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all we are asking, really. Just we are not trying to make it about a religion, wearing a hijab or not wearing a hijab or any of that. This is really, if you are a human and you're breathing and you have a heart, and you see any of these clips of this morality police, which they call them basijis, how they attack people,
Mhm.
children, how they attack children, um, or they get kidnapped and their families receive their dead bodies 2 weeks later, and it's all beaten up and it's all
Oh,
like broken skull. And when you see these clips, if you have a heartbeat, there is no way you can stay silent and not say anything. There is no way that you can be like, it's like all the way across the world, it has nothing to do with me, it's not going to affect me.
right.
It is, if you're a human and you believe in every human to live a peaceful life and live as a human being, this is everybody's issues. It's not just an Iranian issue, it's a human rights issue, and they're violating the human rights in a way that we've never seen before.
And the US, they're not doing anything about it. I mean,
Whatever is being done behind the scene, I don't know. We
uh,
haven't heard anything. We're asking for sanctions on, politicians. We are asking for the government representative to be sent back and not to be allowed to enter any, United States or any foreign countries. We are asking them to stand with us and put sanction on those people. Um, Honestly, we haven't seen any actions from the United States or from United Nations. We are not asking for them to send military back to Iran. We're not asking them to intervene. We're just asking, of the leaders and politicians to do what they can do with the policies to put pressure on Iranian regime. I mean, I don't even want to call them Iranian, the Islamic Republic regime, because they're
right,
not our
right.
government. We don't really recognize them as Iranian government. They're just people who occupied our country 44 years ago and holding on to the power so hard as they can. And when I say they're holding on to the power is, you know, if you speak a word, if you sing, a song that it might have a word in it that they might feel threatened or they might feel like it's against the government, you're going to be kidnapped, you're going to be thrown in jail, and nobody will find you ever.
Right.
It's so it's just, as I say, it's we're asking the politicians to, and the UN to hold, the Islamic Republic accountable for all the lives they're taking, and UNICEF needs to do something because
Sure.
a lot of them are kids. A lot of them are kids who, this generation. I'm in awe of this generation. As I said, we fought in our own way, but they are going on the street facing batons and bullets, and they're taking a bullet. There was a clip of this young girl, I think she was maybe 22, 23, and she was at a protest. She was filming the protest, and as she was chanting an anti-government um, slogan, the bullet hit her, and you see the phone dropping and going black, going silent. And then we heard that as she was chanting and filming, they actually killed her. And this is just one of so many brutal stories you hear. They're left and right arresting all our artists, all the, any or all the journalists. They're silencing everyone by either killing them and throwing them in one of the most notorious jails in, Tehran, where they actually started fire a couple of weeks ago to get rid of the political prisoners and blame it on the protesters. So, yeah, that's where we are. This is not going to end anytime soon. We are going to take on the streets wherever we are. We just had last week, we had a gathering of all Iranians in Europe, in Berlin. 50,000, I'm sorry, 100,000 people showed up for
Wow.
that protest. 100,000 people, all Iranians from all around Europe, took a bus, took a train, they took a plane, however they could. They went to Berlin, and it was so surreal to see, how people are coming together. We had 50,000 people in Toronto. We had 20,000 people in Los Angeles. And every single week, we are planning on more protests and we are planning on more action. But again, we definitely need the non-Iranian help to put pressure on the politicians, on the UN, and on the leaders to do something about this.
And you know what? Let's all do our part and break the silence.
Let's all do our part. Yes, it's going to benefit all of us as humanity. We're going to save humanity. We got to, one by one, stand up for people who have no voice and get rid of these leaders, these regimes, this tyranny that is oppressing people. This is the 21st century. This shouldn't be, Persia was one of the biggest empires in the world. It's ironic that the first human rights uh, declaration was in Iran. The Cyrus the Great, who was, one of the kings, one of the, kings of Iran, one of the emperors, he wrote the human rights in a little cylinder, and it's a clay cylinder that I think is in the museum. That's when, first human rights was actually created. And seeing what's happening in my country now after these barbaric people took over, it's ironic. We created human rights, and now nobody's really, doing much as far as like the United Nations, who's known for protecting the human rights. We haven't seen any actions. So that's what we are asking, that, we can't let these amazing civilizations go down in history in the hands of a few uneducated clerics who, took over, an amazing country by force. And
Mm.
ruling by putting fear in people's, lives, everyday lives. So, I mean, I applaud this generation. As I said, they're very young, but they're the ones who are leaders of this revolution. And I wish I was there and I could go on the streets with them and fight alongside of them. But I'm no use as um, you know, a lot of Iranians are in the same situation. We cannot go back because the minute we step foot in that country, we'll be arrested and thrown in jail. So what we can do from here is just be their voice as much as we can, and you know just help them win this battle. It's a bloody one.
It's a bloody one, all right. Absolutely. Unfortunately, it is a bloody one. Let me just see. Oh, hi, Marty.
That's a good friend of mine.
Oh, you know what, Marty? She sure is. You are a warrior.
She's been a great supporter, from day one. She really encouraged me to write this book because I was very hesitant to do this.
Yeah.
Put your life out there like that. It was very scary, but she was one of the people who actually encouraged me to tell my story, and I'm very
Good.
grateful.
And it's important. I'm glad you encouraged Naz, Marty, because it's
Mhm.
important to share our story with the world. Because, especially in this situation with Iran, because you're making an impact already, and we're creating a movement. We are activists. Okay.
Yeah, when the Black Lives Matter movement happened,
Hmm.
um, I asked Marty, I'm like, educate me because I don't know everything and I want to be an ally. When things like this happen, we are all human. We are all part. There's like a Persian poem that says we are all part of the same body. So when one hurts, we all hurt. So I wanted to educate myself. I wanted to know more, and I wanted to know what I can do to be an ally to help this movement. So now we are in a situation that we call Mahsa Amini our George Floyd, because the way that she was murdered, it was so unjust in the hands of the morality police. And now we need the same help. Now we need the same, allies and the same support from the non-Iranians. You can't just sit back and say, well, I'm not Black, so that doesn't bother me, that doesn't concern me. Or for a man to say, I'm not a woman, the anti-abortion doesn't concern me. No, it
Right.
affects everybody. These issues affect every single one of us in one way or another. If you don't stand up for your fellow human, when it's your turn, who's going to stand up for you?
There you go.
So,
There you go.
it's just like we are all in this together. Just because it's happening in Iran now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to, affect you in any way. Trust me, it will. It's all politics, it's all intertwined, and it's all going to affect all of us one way or another, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's,
Right.
Me Too movement, which like was another, movement that I was very passionate about, because enough is enough. Just because you're a woman, it doesn't mean you have to be oppressed all the time, and you have to be your rights to have to be taken away from you, and you have to be acting like you're a second class citizen. Whether you're in America, you're in Iran, you're in Africa, wherever you are, we have to stand up for each other, and we need the support, not only the support of different you know ethnicities and different races and different cultures, but we
Mhm.
need the support of the men when it comes to women's rights. And as I said, I'm so happy to see all these young men taking to the streets in Iran and supporting the women, even though it started by women. Now it's just a movement that the whole country is really supporting.
Good. That's awesome. And I'm
Yeah,
so happy to hear. So keep being the voice, and you know what Naz says, we need to stand up for ourselves. We need to stand up
for
for,
each other.
and I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, we have to stand for each other because
Mm.
they say, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? What are you waiting for? this, is the time. Uh, it's funny. Somebody, I was speaking to someone and somebody overheard me, and I was speaking about a protest, and they asked me, "Oh, you were part of it?" And I'm like, "I'm part of it all the time." And they're like, "So you're with PETA?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. That's a great cause. People who are a part of PETA." And I guess there was a protest in Beverly Hills, um,
Oh, wow.
for animal rights. And I'm like, and I'm so happy and I'm so glad there are people who, are, defending animal rights. Right now, my cause is to support the women of Iran, the people of Iran. When Me Too movement happened, it was my duty to stand up for women who've gone through this. We all have experiences that we've been in situations that are uncomfortable. If you're a woman, I am 100% sure you've been in those situations, whether you're in the entertainment industry or any other industry. So Me Too was very important for me to speak up and stand next to those women who been traumatized. And Black
Right.
Lives Matter movement happened. It was our duty to stand up, for our, Black friends and family and allies. And this is the time that it's time for Iran. This is what's happening, and this is the time for other people to stand up with us.
Right. Exactly. Oh, Jackie, she's tuning live from the UK or
Yeah,
just in live.
just in
See?
life,
Yeah.
just in life. Yeah, you don't, you know, everybody's passionate about something. So even if, like, PETA is not my passion, if I see, unjust, and if I see something brutal is happening, I'm going to support that movement. So whether your passion is, and again, this is not politics. So whatever your passion is, great. My passion was in general women's rights because of what I've gone through personally. I wanted to help women who are going through, victims or survivors or domestic violence. That started with me writing the book. I've
Right.
always had this fire in me, but writing the book really, you know, gave me the permission to speak on the behalf of all, women who are victims and survivors of domestic violence. And but you have to kind of like pivot. You have to see what's going on in the world around you and who needs your help. So she's right. In general, in life, you have to support the right cause. And,
Mm,
this is the cause right now. And
good.
I'm, we are just collectively as Iranians, we are very sad right now. Our hearts are heavy. And I speak to my actor friends who don't even want to audition. They don't even want to work because they're just like, we are 24/7 attached to our social media and to
Wow.
get some news. Every morning we wake up, the first thing is look at social media in hopes of getting some good news, in hopes of, getting any news really. Unfortunately, most of the news is, another artist has been kidnapped, and somebody else has died. But um, it is, our hearts are very heavy. We are in a lot of pain right now. We are kind of withdrawal from the whole, from the world, from anything else, because that's really what matters right now, and that's what requires our energy and attention right now. And I apologize, regularly to my non-Iranian friends because I've been absent. Um,
Mm,
but I'm so focused on, just helping in any way I can. And, attending the protests, attending any event, attending anybody who's asking me to speak about my experiences, to be there, to show up, that is the priority right now.
sure. Top priority. And Jackie said something right here. We need to teach girls it's okay to say no and not be pressured into doing things because it is expected of them. Exactly.
100%, 100%. I have two nieces, and I don't have children on my own, but they're like my kids, and I'm, always very worried about this culture of, because I'm kind of in an entertainment industry, and I've seen how women are treated, and I've seen how you're pressured to do things that you don't want to do, in order to get a job, in order to,
Yeah.
get a client, to not lose a client. And, I've been in that situation, and I just worry about, my young nieces to, be faced with the same thing. So yes, absolutely. We need to, my generation wasn't taught that. My generation, unfortunately, wasn't taught to like be firm, say no. And it was always to please the man, and it was always to
See?
say okay, because that job is going to be taken away. You can't get ahead. It's a man's world. You can't get ahead if you are resisting. And I am so grateful for the Me Too movement, because that showed people, women in particular, you can say no, and you should say no. And if it's uncomfortable, and if it's something that makes you uncomfortable, you can remove yourself from that situation. Listen, I've lost a lot of, great clients and great projects, and, opportunities that could have advanced my career and my life a lot. But when we say no, unfortunately, those opportunities are taken off the table. However, you know, I can sit here and speak with dignity and say that I didn't sell myself just to further my career or my life, to get my, make my life easier. And this is something that we need to teach our young girls from the very, very young age, that you can do it on your own, and you should do it on your own, and you shouldn't rely on a man, and you should not say yes if it's
That's
something
right.
that goes against your gut feeling. You know, we can do it on our own.
We can do it on our own. I mean, I'm single. I am very single for 12
So am
years.
I.
Good for you. And I intend to stay single.
Here's the thing though. When my book came out, a
Mhm.
lot of interviews I did, um, they were asking me, so how do you feel about men now? Do you like hate men? And I'm like, absolutely not. I love men. I
So
actually.
do I. And I have a lot of
Um,
male friends who support me.
yeah, it's not about hating men just because you've had some bad experiences. We can have men on our side. We can, you know, there are amazing men out there who support us and who are respectful, who are understanding. It's not men versus women. It's absolutely not that. It's just, unfortunately, there are predators out there, and they are waiting for, the situations to take advantage. So we are talking about those men. We are not talking about all men. Um,
I agree.
just because we had some bad experiences, it doesn't mean every single man is like that. There are amazing men out there who are you know fighting for women's rights.
That I agree. Totally agree. And look at Jackie. See, we need more female directors, etc., in the
We do,
industry and more,
absolutely.
exactly, more diversity. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
again, this Me Too movement, opened a lot of doors for women. Not enough, definitely not enough, but it's a progress. We are, in our own way, we are trying to fix what's been broken for so long, and it's going to take a while, but I believe if we stick together and if we keep speaking up, it will happen. It definitely will happen.
It definitely will happen. So let's be the voice. That let's be the voice for change.
you
And
know
this,
um, Once somebody asked, um, how things changed for me in my own personal experience, and my answer always been, the minute I spoke up, the minute I said something, my whole life changed. Within 30 minutes, it changed. I stayed silent for a long time. I didn't want to speak about what I was going through and what was happening. um, because there's so much shame attached to it. There's so much guilt attached to it that I didn't want to talk about it. And once I broke that silence, and it was just to my own sister, once I told my sister what's going on because she insisted, my life changed within 30 minutes. If I haven't said
Mm,
anything, I could have very well been Masa Amini. I could have very well been Nika, any of those kids who died, who got killed, who got murdered, who got kidnapped, raped, tortured, and killed. I could have very well been that girl. Um, but when you speak, when you talk, when you are not afraid anymore, that's when change starts happening. And if I do it, you do it, everybody else does it,
sure.
we can't be ignored anymore. I did it in my own little world, and it changed my life to a point that, 20 something years later, I decided, okay, I'm going to speak up again. I'm going to write my book, and I'm going to say these uncomfortable things. I'm going to talk about all these uncomfortable events and every little painful things that happened to me, so it prevents somebody else to go through it. Because
Right.
if when I was going through it, somebody I could have, gotten my hand on a book, on a story that somebody else shared, and I knew that somebody in the same situation did it and
Mm,
survived, maybe I would have left earlier. Maybe I would have done something about it earlier. Maybe I wouldn't, done things differently. So, yes, it did take 20 something years for me to be comfortable enough to be a grown woman and be
right.
comfortable enough to share what has been happening to me, because I honestly didn't share a lot of details with my own family. They didn't know till the book came out. Um,
Right.
but I'm like, okay, if I talk to my sister and my life changed so dramatically, um, what can writing the book and talking about all these stories and all these experiences, what can that do? Can it save one girl, two girls, five girls? That's enough. That's enough for me. I've done my job.
Exactly.
So it's so important to encourage each other, to not to be ashamed, not to feel guilty, not to feel like we're going to be judged, and just speak and talk about it.
Exactly. And I like what Jackie said. Yes, we all have a story that could help another person.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well,
Exactly.
and Jackie also says some would say feminism has reached a point where we are now hating on men, but I think it's just being aware of
Mm.
how we are treated and we have a voice. Absolutely, Jackie. And
Yeah, let's
she's
not take things to extreme. That's what
right.
I
I
say.
agree.
Let's not take things to extreme. Me Too movement happened because of Harvey Weinstein, because he was an evil person. He was taking advantage of, these young girls who really wanted to get into the industry, which is a really hard industry to break into. You
Mm,
know, I'm a stylist. I'm a celebrity stylist, and even for me, I'm not an actor. Even for me, it's very hard as not just a stylist to be from Iran and start a lot later than a lot of other people who've had these opportunities and grew up here. He was just one man who was really evil, and the Me Too movement shouldn't be about every single man. It should single out the men who are acting
mm,
as an evil person and taking advantage of women. It's not about every single man. These movements sometimes take a turn, and unfortunately some people take advantage of it, which is what makes me very angry. Because for a woman to have the courage to come forward and say, this happened to me, and this person who has a lot of power did that to me, and risking losing, a lot of supporters, a lot of jobs, a lot of projects, and then somebody else making a lie to get attention, that makes me very angry, because that takes away from another woman or another person who wants to come forward to say, you know what, this happened to me. Because then people are not going to believe everybody. People are not going to believe. So
right.
if you're telling the truth, then people are going to doubt and say, well, she was lying, she made this up to get attention and could get some money, why should I believe you? Let's not do that. Let's not take advantage of these movements who like start with good intention, and take it to a level that then people are like, no, I don't believe in any of that anymore.
Right, right. Exactly.
So yeah, so she is right that it shouldn't be about all men. It's not all men.
No.
It's not all men. It's not all women. It's not all governments. It's not all politicians. But we need to recognize who's the problem and speak up about what they're doing, expose them, really expose them,
Exactly.
and take these opportunities from them who, you know, that they're, staying in power and keep abusing, their power and their status.
Exactly. I totally agree. And we're coming up to the top of the hour. This was an amazing conversation tonight. We had a lot of, people, for a Tuesday night.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you,
amazing.
everybody.
What a great conversation. And you know what? We need more of these conversations. And
Yes, we do. We do. I ask everybody to, like, if they have something to say, please don't hesitate. Don't worry about judgment. Don't worry about that. That's what I felt. I felt like if I write this book, I'm going to be judged a lot. People have things to say, their opinion. And then I had to shed that, persona of, you know, people see on social media all your happy moments before, all these movements happen. Everybody just talks about, celebrate their wins and their good times. And, you know, I was very afraid of, what am I going to lose if I come forward with this book and tell my story? And I had to just get over myself pretty much and be like, you know
right,
what? It is what it is. I am a person. I went through this. It is life. And if you, want to unfollow me, if you don't want to work with me, and if you want to like judge me, be my guest. But this is my truth and I need to speak about it.
right, exactly. And I give you so much credit because you stepped into your own naked truth, I call it. And you told your story. And who cares about what other people think?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
exactly. You
that's
have
me
to
too.
just
I'm the same way. And
it's
I'm going
you
to
the
be
one
writing my
who
book
made
too. So I think I better reach out to Marty because
amazing.
she encouraged you, to write your book. So I give Marty a lot of credit. I give,
Yes, yes, she
yes,
deserves it.
absolutely. She's amazing. I would love to connect with her. So now people can find you now on Instagram where you,
That's where I'm most active on Instagram. That's where
okay,
I post mostly, and I'm, most active on Instagram about everything, whether it's my job or, what I do to help Iran or, anything, any issue, any
good.
happy moment, any sad moment, anything that I do, it's mostly on Instagram. I'm
Good.
a little old for TikTok, even though I try, but this is the
TikTok
platform
is
that I share the
another,
most.
yeah. Are you very active on TikTok or is it
I'm
mostly?
not. I'm not. It's mostly Instagram. As I said, I try to post on TikTok because I know it gets a lot of views and it reaches a lot of people, and especially the new generation. But I'm a newbie and I don't know how to like work around it. And my niece usually laughs at me for, how I post. So therefore, I'm mostly on Instagram.
Okay.
And yeah, I mostly post on Instagram. That's where I'm comfortable.
You have to do what's right for you. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah,
And people can reach you because you're a fashion stylist too.
I am.
So
Yes.
can people buy as far as your book, can people buy your book through the website or is it Amazon?
It's on Amazon, so you can find it under 7,000 Miles to Freedom. That's the
Okay.
title. It's on Amazon. You can order it. That's the easiest way to get it.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to be buying the book. So to
Thank you.
support. Well, Naz, I want to thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule
Thank
to
you.
join me tonight and being the voice for Iranian women and what's going on in, Tehran. So prayers to everyone. And I commend that you've started, that this movement is happening and the younger generation, they're going to be taking over. I'm
They're
manifesting.
going. They're
They're going
going to
to take
win.
over, no doubt about it, because
Yes.
this hatred needs to stop. It's more than it's this oppression. like Naf was saying earlier. It
It's
needs to
massacre.
stop.
It's a massacre. So this needs to
Massacre,
stop.
right? So what I want to say is this: hang out with me in the green room after this. So tonight's broadcast is coming to a close. So please look for this podcast episode. This will be launching in 2 weeks on Monday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time. And I will also be uploading this live tonight on my YouTube channel. So go please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Angeline Mitchell, and please like and subscribe to my podcast, Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. You can find me on Anchor FM, Spotify, Google, Apple, and all the live streams. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight, Naz. Thank you for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
to
for
the
having me.
viewers, to the live viewers who tuned in tonight. This was another amazing live tonight, a live conversation with Naz. Very proud of what she's doing. So keep
Thank
up the
you.
great work. And this broadcast is coming to a close. So have a great night, everyone. And please share this
Thank
out
you.
to anyone who, needs to hear this message. Thank you. Have a great